Welcome to Journey On. This is the show before the show was very entertaining. I'm sorry that you didn't get to participate, but we're here to talk about everything that is Journey Fellowship. It's Church Chat with Pastor Karl and our friend Fargo Dan. Dan from Fargo, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a chance to talk about what we did last week and then what's coming up. Dan has the message for us this coming weekend, but before we get into that, I have a question for you. It's a riddle, and I want to ask you both. You'll both have a chance to answer this. What do these things have in common? Name that tune, 5 monks, a rabbi, a monastery, the movie Titanic, and Gandhi. What do those have in common?
Dan, do you want to go first?
Wait.
Dan, did you go to church on Saturday?
I did. There's got to be a moral to a story.
Well, if you got the same message,
that's what they all have in common, the moral to the story.
Yeah, if you went to the same message that we had in Bismarck, they all have love in common, right?
Oh.
That was, yep, we got to see that. Name that tune. Did you have the same 5 songs in Fargo, or did you mix it up so there wasn't any? Oh, I need to talk to Rodney in Bismarck and see if he has a friend in Fargo that fed him the answers.
He did seem pretty ready. Yeah,
he got 3 of them. Yeah, he's a smart guy, but I don't know. That's a little suspicious.
You're thinking.
Well, you know, we can be watched online, so.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's what happened.
All right. Well, we'll have to keep that in mind if we do game shows down the road.
Yeah, I'll change it up.
Yeah, that'll be good. And then, of course, we had the monastery. I'd never heard the story about the 5 monks and the rabbi before, and it did sound like a joke as you started the story. There are these 5 monks, and then the rabbi walks in, so I'm glad we went the direction we did. I just wanted to touch on this. When we talk about God is love and what the New Testament has meant to me, it comes down to John 13, and you used this in the service, John 13, 34 and 35. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read through it again, and maybe we could talk about it here a bit. New command I give you, and that's Jesus talking, right? Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And that's always hit me hard, right? That, okay, if Jesus can love me, I can love others, and I can use him to model that. But here's where it really gets real. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. And that becomes an outreach then, right? That's the idea, that people watching us as Christians can either understand what Jesus was or not. And I think there's a challenge for us in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. So part of what I said this weekend and would love to reiterate is the way that we love people. And I'm going to take love back. The way that we interact with people, the way that we respond to people, the way that we treat people, any one of those words applies, shows others the God that we worship.
Right.
So if we're judging harshly, if we're finger pointing, if we're name calling, if we're condemning to others and each other and even ourselves, that shows the kind of God that we worship, which would be a condemning, name calling, unloving God, and that's not the God that we worship. So we want to be accurate in our conveyance of God's love, which is what we're called to do. So that means everything we think, everything we say, every action that we do towards ourselves and others is telling the world the God that we worship. So we want to be accurate on that. And thank you for bringing that up, because Jesus says they'll know you're my disciples by how you love one another. So if someone, like I always joke, because in Bismarck, everybody in Bismarck knows there's this window, a big window that you can look in and see the congregation sitting there. If they look in and what they witness, or we have windows in Fargo too, of course, for fire code. If they look in and they witness what's going on in the secular world, what sets us apart from the rest of the world? It'd be nothing. And who wants to go out of their way to step into another worldly organization, it's going to be judging and finger pointing and name calling no one. That's not inviting. That's not the God that we serve. So thank you for bringing that up. I love that. It's an awesome verse.
Yeah, and I can say that I am not as good as I want to be at that yet. And in my 50 plus years, my experience, the only way I know that I can get better is by being in a family that wants to get better, right? To surround ourselves with that. And then it moves into the outreach, and we're continuing together on purpose this coming weekend. Dan, you're speaking in Fargo, and I love asking the question, are you able to make the journey to Bismarck if the roads are okay, or are you planning to?
I sure am.
All right. Excited. Oh, okay. Then I'm going to put another challenge out there, because I've seen you play in Fargo. Are you planning to bring your instrument with?
Actually, not even playing this weekend because I'm speaking. So.
Oh, okay. That's, you know what? Absolutely fair. We'll give you a pass, and maybe we'll convince you to come up with the instrument another time.
I would love to do that sometime.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that. But for now, and we talked a little bit ago about what you'll be covering, and it's dealing with the gifts that God has given us, right? That's what we're talking about this coming weekend.
It is. It's employing the gifts God has given us for the benefit of one another. And by that, obviously, one another, when we refer to that, we're talking primarily within the church family, our family, but it's not exclusive to that. Because like we just touched on, we all have the spiritual gifts that are given to us once we believe. And we have the fruits of the Spirit that are a result of that. Well, the fruits of the Spirit are evident when love identifies the believer and when it motivates the believer. So that love, the love that we have for other people, flows out of us as a result of God loving us first, because we love because God loved us first. So that love is the fountainhead for everything else in the life of the believer. And that's how we live our life empowered by the Holy Spirit. There's no other way to do it. But you look at Galatians 5:22 and 23, where it lists the fruit of the Spirit, being love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The order of those is not an accident. Love is first, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's looking forward to hearing that. The gifts, we've talked before about the difference between there are gifts that happen in a moment, and there are gifts that we have throughout our life for longer term, or maybe something that we've been given for a lifetime. So putting that into perspective of how we can be with one another using those gifts, I'm excited for that.
And Paul does tell us in Corinthians 12, verses 4 through 11, if anybody wanted to read ahead through that, they certainly can. He talks about the different kind of gifts, but it's all from the same Spirit. It's all from God. And we need to use those. Well, first we need to discover which of them is our gift, because unless you know that, you can't use it. But once you determine what your gift is, and even prior to that, while you're trying to discover what your gift is, we need to get out and, well, I'll kind of give you an overview of the 5 steps that David Jeremiah lays out to discovering your spiritual gifts are investigation, involvement, interaction, introspection, and interest. So the investigation part, you got to find time discovering what the gifts are, first of all, how they function and how they benefit the church, first of all. And then involvement is just getting involved in spiritual activities. And some people think that until they know what their gift is, they don't know what to do. So they're always wondering, well, I don't know that I have a gift. So if you get involved in something, if you just try it out,
right,
it's a lot easier to steer a car that's moving than it is one standing still. If you ever tried to do a car without power steering?
Yeah.
If it's not moving, you can't get the wheel to turn.
Right.
But if it's rolling along, it rolls as easily as using power steering. Well, until you get out there and utilize your gifts and find what you're comfortable with, you're not going to know. Interaction is the next one. And that really is that interaction with others as you get out there and do the things that you think you might be wanting to do. That helps you understand if you're having an impact. And so the introspection, if you look into your heart and you find joy in doing that particular thing and affecting those particular people, obviously that must be a gift.
Mm-hmm.
An interest. What opportunities compel us? Our gifts are not given to us for our benefit. They're given for the edification of the church and for glorifying God to people outside the church that are not yet believers.
Amen. One of the great things about being part of the family is we can screw up, right? So if I don't know for sure what my gift is, I can just jump in and learn. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And if it is, great. Here's a path I can take. If it isn't, okay, well, now I know that's not my gift. Somebody else can take that one. I'm going to move over here.
Exactly. And Carl's been talking all along about our word for the year being grow for our church. The only way you can really grow a church, we can't do it from within. So obviously we need to take our spiritual gifts, take that outside of our comfort zone, outside of our normal church family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it involves even just stepping into our own immediate family. And I know for myself, that's part of my difficult mission field is my own children. And utilizing those gifts in a way that doesn't off-put them to the point where they don't want to listen to dad anymore.
Right.
Right.
And that's a great point.
Touched on, and Rick Warren says quite often, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is very, very true, not only in your close family, but in the people you run across.
Yep.
Carl mentioned in his sermon last week that our job really as Christians, when we take our Christian love outside of the church, we will never run across anyone or look into the eyes of anyone who God doesn't love as much as he loves each one of us. And we have to start seeing people through God's eyes and understanding that, even this person that I thoroughly detest because of his outlook that's not the same as mine, or the way he looks different than I do, God has never, it breaks his heart to see any human being in hell, because that's not what hell was for. It was not made for his people. He loves each and every one of us the same. Each and every one of our sins affect him the same way. And he wants each and every one of us to be in heaven with him eternally. So that's our job.
I would love to have more conversations about the challenges that we have. You talked about the struggle you have with reaching out to our grown children. I share that with you, and I think that's an important part of our family. Also, extending the conversation beyond the message on Saturday and Sunday with the rest of us that are there, and maybe those that watch online, to continue the conversation. What gifts do we have, and how do we realize what those are? That's a real human thing. And
right.
We have the hour that we spend together where we hear the message and we can take pieces from that. And I think continuing that conversation is also really important. I've been really blessed to have some fantastic conversations in the last couple of years with church family, as we've gotten closer and extended to the locations that we have, and more people coming in and more people that we get to know through the church. And I get excited to share that. I process by talking and engaging with other people, and I know others do as well. So I appreciate you guys planting the seeds when the messages are given. And some weeks it really sprouts for people, and other weeks it completely blossoms in the time that we're sitting there. I've had those moments too, but there are other times where we can just continue on, and sometimes weeks and months down the road, remember that message that you gave here, it led to something happening here. So I guess I just want to say thanks for putting the time into what you guys do and giving the message. And you talked about growing. Now, my part in growing the church has more to do with my midsection than anything these days, and we're going to continue that in a couple weeks in Bismarck. We have the Chili Cookoff. How's that for I went to radio school, you guys.
That was a segue that
yes.
James, all other segues. That was
I really
That
have
is
to
into
work
another
for it.
segue as part of my message is that we need to grow into fat Christians, and I'll explain that more on Saturday
great.
and Sunday.
I am, that's all right. I'm in. I will wear my sweatpants to church on Sunday because I'll be ready for you. I won't do that. But we have our chili cook-off coming up the third Sunday in Bismarck. It's the 16th. And as we were coming into the recording here, those of you that are watching online, we were part of the show before the show is I think there was an agreement. I mean, the 2 out of 3 of us agreed that Fargo should have one that Saturday, the 15th.
Correct.
So how's that for a challenge? You've got 2 weeks to come up with the best chili you've ever made in the entire universe. And because you have to win, right?
Well, of course.
Yeah. Now, do you have a chili recipe, Pastor Karl?
Yeah, you know what? I used to be the chili guy in our house. I mean,
Okay,
I would make,
all right.
and my wife started, man, probably 5 years ago or something, and her chili blows mine away. And
Oh,
and
all right.
what she puts, and what she puts there is very surprising. I don't think it's a
Don't-
secret because
Well, I was going to say, don't give the secret away. Maybe wait until after the competition.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
If I get one compliment, I'll let them know why they're complimenting me.
All right. Okay. So there's that. And Dan, how about you? Are you a chili connoisseur?
No, my wife does make a very excellent chili, but it's not a local style or
Oh,
type of chili. So it's a little bit different.
interesting. Sometimes
And
those
it's,
stand out.
It's
in a
actually
competition.
local to the Cincinnati, Ohio area. So
Let's see. So then it has a lot of bratwurst and but
No,
my
not at
experience, my experience in Cincinnati was the spiciest yellow mustard I've ever had.
Really?
And I didn't know that it was spicy. It looked just like the stuff that comes in the French's and the Fleischmann's. And I dipped my schnitzel in there and got here and I inhaled a little bit and I ended up having such a coughing fit, tears coming down my eyes. I couldn't
Holy
breathe
cow.
for about 30 seconds. It was a good experience. I just did not see it coming. So spicy
ready.
mustard chili. All right, I'll be ready if I can be there. So the 15th in Fargo, it's been set. It's already on the internet, so it has to happen.
Yeah, it has to be true.
Yeah, and then the 16th in Bismarck, it's the chili cook-off. Now in Bismarck, if you're interested, see Dustin. He's on our on the board, one of the guys. But let anybody know, and if nothing, just bring chili, and we'll be good those weekends. Otherwise, I think that's about everything we wanted to cover. Other than Pastor Karl, any final thoughts for us today as we wwrap up?
I do have a final thought. Thank you. So my final thought is a continuation of last month. So we're in February now, and we challenged each other last month, the month of January. The first thing you do every day before you put your feet to the floor, and you said even before you pick your phone up, and I love that addition, was to dedicate your day to Jesus. And I actually had a lot of people, a lot of our church comment on what a difference that makes. And it's such a simple little thing, and it really does just kind of set the tone. So obviously we're into February now, February 3rd, I believe, and I don't think you need to discontinue it because a month is up. So this isn't part of the challenge, but I would say, you know what, if in that 30 days you noticed a change in how your day was, just continue it. You know, why not continue something good? But my continuation is, so we had our day dedicated. So to continue to that, I want everyone to take a next step. So that next step is going to look differently for everybody. If it's somebody that doesn't normally read a lot of the Bible, maybe that next step is picking one of the Gospels. If you've never read any of the Gospels, I would maybe suggest John. You guys might want to suggest something different, but I think John or Mark are really easy reads. You get a really neat picture of who Jesus is and the disciples, and a lot of miracles and some amazing things. If you haven't read a lot of Bible, maybe don't start in the Old Testament.
No.
But
Please don't.
I'm going to raise more questions. But so that might be someone's next step, is to pick a book and just start going through it, and maybe make some notes, whatever that next step is. If your prayer life can use a little amping up, which honestly I don't believe anyone's can't. I don't think there's anyone out there where God is thinking, oh my gosh, they pray so much. That just doesn't happen. So if that's it, maybe set aside a time for this month. Just set aside 10 minutes or whatever. If your drive to work, or just say my drive to work is going to be dedicated to praying. Maybe that's your next step. But I want cumulatively as a church, because Dan is going to be wrapping up Together on Purpose, and I last week talked about the basis and the motivator and the foundation and the filter, the instigator of all of these things we're talking about for the last 9 weeks. All these things are driven by love, agape, and our agapao, which is the verb sense of that. So what I would really encourage everyone to do for this week, and I'm not saying it's only 1 week, I'm saying really concentrate on for this week, every church member who has seen at least one of these, one another, in the series, whether it's greeting one another, the kiss, offering hospitality, bearing burdens, confessing sins, speaking truth, being devoted to one another in thinking, service, prayer, giving, exhorting one another, like Amy talked about 2 weeks ago, or we'll find out what Dan has, and we've kind of got an idea of that, right? Using our gifts, finding a way every day. So that's 7 days, finding a way to show God's love to another human being. And if it's your wife every day, she will love it. If it's your husband every day, she will love it. But I would even encourage you to branch out and just find a way to show God's love to another human being 7 times. I don't think that's a lot to ask, and I think it'll really kickstart our next series that we're moving into.
Well, that's exciting. Looking forward to wrapping this one up and starting a new one. And you mentioned reading, if you're looking to read something, to start with one of the Gospels. Great idea. If someone's looking beyond the Gospels, my favorite book of the entire Bible is Romans. And
Romans is great.
Anybody ever is looking for the best news ever, for me, that was one of the pinnacles of my young Christian life was, oh, that's what it means. Like everything that I learned as a kid, everything that I've experienced, that's where it really came together for me. And I know everybody has different experiences, but when you said that we might have other ideas, I just wanted to share that one with you. That was a big one.
Romans is a fantastic book. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dan, looking forward to having you come out to Bismarck. I'm sure in Fargo, looking forward to seeing what the Spirit has for you to share with everybody. And I appreciate everybody's time as always. We'll see everybody soon. Make sure to get your chili ready to rock, and we'll see you then. God bless. Take care.
Can't wait. Thank you.